All right, what's going on, everybody? It is Bogo Sports here, and I'm back with another video. And as you can see by the title, I'm going to be breaking down and giving my predictions for UFC 291. The UFCs haven't been amazing recently, but this one on paper is an absolute banger, and I can't wait. So I'm doing it on a different little format as well. I'm not recording on my phone right now. I'm recording on my computer, and I'm going to try to share my screen so that you can see what I'm looking at and kind of have something to look at other than just my ugly mug. So, okay, let's get started. Let me share my screen, and we will do this. So the main event, we'll get there at the end, but let's start from the bottom. I'll just talk about certain fights on the prelims. I'm not going to talk about everything. The first fight that caught my eye is Matthew Semmelsberger versus Medic. Semmelsberger is a guy I'm a fan of every time I see him fight. He always goes out there and just puts on really exciting fights. He hits like a truck. He's super tall and athletic. I think he was a former football player at one point. And Medic is a guy that had height before he faced Jalen Turner. I'm not sure where he's at. He hasn't fought in a long time, so maybe he's been improving a lot. But I definitely think this is a good fight for Semmelsberger, but it should end up being a stand-up fight. Semmelsberger can take it to the ground if he needs to. He's shown that he has pretty good wrestling before, but I think this will probably end up being a stand-up fight. And if it is, I still predict Semmelsberger in this one. So that's going to be a good one to look out for on the early prelims. If we go to the prelims, as you can see here, Jake Matthews, he had some hype. Semmelsberger actually beat him and ended the hype, and he rocked Matthews many times. So, that's kind of where I get my thing. I think it's going to be a stand-up fight, and I think, Matthews probably a little bit better striker than Medic. I don't know. I don't want to get too much into the comparing, but Matthews, he had a good fight when he fought Fiallo, got a nice knockout, and he was a couple years off. So it was like, oh, this guy is finally reaching his potential. And that's not to say he isn't. I think Semmelsberger is very close to a top 15 fighter. So, you know, I think Matthews, this could be a good bounce back fight. Let's see. This guy, Vergara, he always puts on interesting fights. And I think Kopylov, too, he always has crazy fights. So I think there's gonna be some good matchups on the lower portion of this card. So I'll try to catch those. And then the prelim main event. I think it was supposed to be Derek Lewis, but which we'll get to on the main card. There was a change. So it's now Gabriel Bonfim versus Trevin Giles. Giles hasn't had the most amazing fights, if I remember correctly. Bonfim is like a rookie, pretty much. He just got into the UFC. His first fight was on the Brazil card in January against somebody, and he and his brother won on the first fight, and he dominated the guy. He submitted him in the first round. So I'm not quite sure these odds because Giles is not some dominant fighter. I mean, if you look at his record, he's 16-4 and he hasn't had the most. Well, he's won decisions. He lost by TKO. So, I don't think he's been a dominant fighter, even in his wins. And Bonfim, if we click in here, he had a very nice win against Munir Lazez or whatever the guy's name was. He submitted him in 49 seconds. That's what I mean by dominant. So I don't understand the betting odds on this one, but I will pick Bonfim in this. That's crazy odds. I think that might be just a glitch. Okay, let's get to the main card. This is where the card really heats up and just becomes a banger. Kevin Holland versus number 12, Chiesa. So let's talk about Holland first. Holland's one of my fighters I actually really like a lot. He had his fit phase where he's super entertaining. So I do like the talking and stuff, but there was a point where it got too much. He had the crazy run, won 5 straight fights, and then lost 2 in a row. And then one of them he was talking the entire time. It was just kind of getting out of hand, and he wasn't looking like a serious fighter anymore. Um, but then he kind of moved down to welterweight and was looking like, okay, he's taking this seriously now, and he was getting some good knockout victories. But then he had to face Hamzat on short notice. It just kind of messed him up. He hasn't been able to get into a good rhythm, and he faced Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and lost that. And that was another thing. Was like, why are you doing this, man? You're not taking this seriously. But if you look, his last fight against Ponzinibbio, he got a KO. That's a very dangerous stand-up fighter. So you could say, I mean, that's a good bounce back win from this Thompson fight and the Chimaev fight. If you load more, he had a nice winning. So when he kind of, let's see here. So this was the last of his 5 fights, the one that got him a bunch of hype where he knocked out Jacare from his back. Then he faced Brunson, was talking the whole time and got dominated with the wrestling. And then he faced Vittori, and he wasn't talking the whole time, but he got dominated with the wrestling. And then he got that headbutt from Dawkins. So it was like, man, this guy's just having terrible luck. But then moved down to 170, and he faced Oliveira and got a knockout. and that was a really good performance. He got a Darce choke against Tim Means, but he really knocked him out and then choked him out. So great performance. And it's like, okay, we're building this guy back up at welterweight. And he was supposed to fade Daniel Rodriguez, who I think he would have probably KO'd. But then the whole Hamzat thing, and he takes an L there. Okay, whatever. He does a Thompson fight coming off a loss, and he makes a mistake trying to be an entertaining fighter over a smart fighter. And then the Ponzinibbio is a good bounce back. So all that to say, he suffered some losses, but I really like him as a fighter. And I think if he can get a string of wins going again, another 5 fight win streak, he could be up there at the very top. He's got good striking. He's got super long, rangy weapons with his kicks and punches. He has good jiu-jitsu. He's a high level black belt. His wrestling isn't amazing, but I'm sure he's been training it. I like, I would like to see him get more well-rounded, and I think that's what he's doing. Chiesa, on the other hand, he doesn't have great striking. Just I would say average. He did kind of like piece up Sean Brady in their fight. Chiesa, he's a really good grappler. That's his main attribute. Jiu-jitsu and wrestling. He's really good in jiu-jitsu and wrestling. He has good submissions. He's gonna have far better wrestling than Holland, and I think that is what wrestling technique, I'll say. And I think that's what's going to be his exact game plan from the start. I think he's going to try to make this a slow takedown fight, wrestling, grappling, and Holland's going to try to keep it on the feet. So I say Kies has better technique, but Holland is super athletic and far faster. His speed is crazy, and he has the reach advantage. So I think it's going to be hard for Chiesa to get in on takedowns. So I think he's going to have to, play around and act like he's going to strike with him on the feet for a little bit. So, just I think that gives like Holland's physical attributes and his striking ability, and just the fact that he has super long arms, it allows him to crank up underhooks, and it makes it more difficult to take down. So if he has the right, basics, if he's been practicing the basics, if he stays off the cage, stuff like that, it's going to be hard for Chiesa to get him down. And I personally think that Holland's going to knock him out, maybe in the first round. Maybe he gets taken down for a round and later round, but I think Holland's probably going to knock this guy out. Kess is a tough fighter. He's going to come to win, but I definitely want Holland to win here. And he could be number 12 if he wins. Okay, next one's a Legends fight, mainly the legend on the left. Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. We all know Tony's had a bunch of losses. It just doesn't feel the same when he's fighting anymore. It feels like we're watching a shell of Tony Ferguson, it's too bad. But I just hope he can come out and still have a good fight. Bobby Green was like still looking like very good fighter, and he got KO'd by Dober, even though he's dominating that fight. So it's like, okay, Bobby Green's also very old. Is this going to be the kind of end of him? Are we going to see a lesser version after the knockout? I don't know. But I would like to see this go for a good fight. I mean, Tony, man, it's just so hard to read these. His run at the top ended after Gaethje, and it's as simple as that. That was one of the worst beatings ever. And Tony was already like 38 at that point, and he had cut weight twice. It was just a mess. So he lost there. Oliveira absolutely dominated him. And Tony's one of the best grapplers in the division, particularly jiu-jitsu, and Oliveira dominated him. That was a really like, whoa, what's going on here? Then Dariush dominated him, heel hooked him. And then it was like, okay, he's lost 3 straight. He can still come back here. He faced Chandler and actually did really well in that fight in the first round and then just got punted in the face and got KO'd. And then he fought Nate and he was doing okay, but like that one was the real because he still looked decent at times in the Chandler fight, at times in the Oliveira fight, even though he was getting destroyed. He looked decent in the Gaethje fight, but he was still, I think, up on the upward trajectory before he hit Gaethje. And then it was like, oh, I'm going back down now. Or I'm going down. He was never down here for his whole career. He had won 12 straight before that. Um, but like I was saying, the Diaz fight was the one that I believe I think that was the one that he really looked far worse than he usually is. So, I don't expect that we're going to see all of a sudden this rejuvenated Ferguson, but hopefully it's a good fight between Bobby Green. I'm going to go Bobby Green by decision. I hope Tony's tough enough to kind of take some of the punches. Bobby Green's not a huge big knockout artist, so I'm going to go Bobby Green in this. So this was on the prelims, which is crazy because Derek Lewis is never really on the prelims. He's usually like a fight night headliner. He's headline pay-per-views, but he's facing Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Derek Lewis seems to be on a downward trajectory in his career, but he still has that knockout power. This is a good fight just for straight knockouts. I don't know if, I mean, I think de Lima does have some grappling, but I'm hoping that these guys both make the decision. Let's just slug it out and see who wins. And most times when people slug it out and see who wins, Derek Lewis wins. Even if this guy, Rogerio de Lima, who I've seen get some knockouts before I think he got one from full guard once when he was on top position. So he has good, if he can get Derek Lewis down, it's probably gonna be a KO for him. Even if he tries to get Lewis down, I think there's a good chance we could have a Curtis Blade situation where Derek Lewis hits him with an uppercut or something when he's coming in. So I think it'll ultimately end up being a stand-up fight. And if it's not a stand-up fight anymore, it probably means the fight's over for one guy or the other. So very quickly. So I'm gonna go with Derek Lewis in this one. I kind of want to see this guy get back on track. I think he probably just hits harder than this dick. I'm not gonna stop calling him this guy, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I think he hits harder. Just probably I'd rank him as kind of a different class of fighter. But we'll find out. We'll find out. I mean, Lewis has been at the top for a while, but like I said, he's been getting dominated in his most recent fights, so he could just be on a downward trajectory. Okay, here we go. These top two fights are just absolute fireworks. Exactly what I wanted to see on a UFC pay-per-view. Alex Pereira, former middleweight champion, moving up to light heavyweight to face the former light heavyweight champion, Jan Blachowicz. The odds on this fight, look at them, 120 and 110. This is such an interesting fight. Part of me is like, wow, Alex is coming back. Pereira is coming very back or early, excuse me. He's coming back very early from that brutal KO from Izzy. So I'm on one hand, I'm like, okay, I just hope Alex is at 100% because we want to see these guys out here fighting. And Jan Blachowicz hits like a truck, so you don't want to have a weaker chin against Jan. Jan, okay, let's go. Just breaking down the stand up. Stand up. Jan has very good stand up. He showed he could stand on the feet with Izzy. He has knocked out a ton of people before, like Rockhold, Dominic Reyes. There's a countless list of people, Corey Anderson, that he's knocked out. That being said, his striking is not on the level of Pereira. Pereira is a glory kickboxer. We don't even need to go into his striking. Pereira has better striking technique. I would definitely say, especially in the quickness of his combinations and how he mixes things in. Jan's a little bit more like plodding forward and will throw one strike at a time. And believe me, his strikes are just Polish power. That's why they call him Polish power. His kicks are so brutal. The ones to the body that he just marked up Dominic Reyes' side with, man, those were brutal. So this is not to say Jan does not have elite striking, because I really do see him as an elite striker, but he's not going to be as quick and he's not going to be able to spit out different combinations and different weapons as quickly as Pereira. So Pereira's going to have the advantage in the striking. Power-wise, like I said, Jan has crazy power. I still think Alex has more power than him. This guy, we have never seen a guy that hits as hard as Pereira in recent memory. I don't want to make statements like that are short-sighted, but in recent memory, this guy just touches people and they go to sleep. So he has advantage in the power and the striking in general. Size, I think the size is pretty equal on these guys. Obviously, most times when somebody moves up in weight, they're going to be at a slight size disadvantage. But Pereira is just so monstrous. I think he still might even be bigger than Jan, which makes me question how he even got down to 185. I think so. He has the advantage there. I think grappling, obviously, we all know. Jan is not some dominant grappler, but he has, he showed in the Izzy fight, he has the ability to take down a kickboxer strategically and hold them down. So one thing that is in Alex Pereira's favor for that kind of game plan is that this is only 3 rounds. So if Jan wants to make that his game plan, he's gonna have to kind of wait. If he does it in the same style he did with Izzy, he'll have to wait about a round and a half. And that's a round and a half that he's gonna have to stand on the feet with Alex. And then Alex could win the first 2 rounds if he does well in the striking, and then maybe get held down and lose it, win a decision if he loses only the third round. So what I'm saying is Jan's going to have less time in the later rounds. He's not going to have 2 full rounds at the very end to make that his game plan. If he wants to go to the grappling, he's going to have to go to it early. And going to it early puts him at risk for a flying knee or for an uppercut or getting caught with a hook on the way in. So I think ultimately, I think Jan may try to go to that game plan if he gets rocked. But I think he's going to try to stand with Pereira and prove a point, which wouldn't be the worst thing. I think there's a chance on the feet either guy can get knocked out. We saw Pereira get knocked out by Izzy, and I believe that Blachowicz has the same power as Izzy, if not far more. But I don't think he has the speed or timing of Izzy. So it's going to be interesting. I'm gonna go with Pereira, and man, it's so hard, because Jan is older. Pereira's not a spring chicken either, but Jan's like almost 40, and I think Pereira's like in his 30s, 35, 36. It's so hard. I could see this fight going multiple different ways. I could see Pereira getting a decision. I could see Jan getting a decision. I could see Jan getting a knockout and Pereira getting a knockout. I don't really see any submissions on either side. I'm gonna pick this one. I'm gonna go Pereira. I'm gonna go Pereira decision. Even though it's not the fun answer, I think that might be what happens. I think he might kind of do good in the striking, and then maybe in the second or third round get taken down a little bit. I want to see a knockout though, and I think either guy, like I said, can get a knockout. But that's gonna be my prediction. Main event. There's not as much breakdown here, I don't think. Oh wow, I didn't even know you could do this. There's not as much breakdown here, so I'll do this for the next one. Dustin Poirier, Gaethje, we saw them fight in 2018. Both just savages, put on the best fights. They're fighting for the BMF title. What else is there to say? I think everybody knows how great of fighters each of these guys are. As far as the fight, I think it's going to look different than the one in 2018, just because at that point, Justin Gaethje was still focused on becoming the most entertaining fighter, not the best fighter. And now that's changed. It changed after his fight with Poirier. He wanted to be a great fighter. He wanted to go for the title rather than just put on entertaining fights. And in the process, he still put on entertaining fights nonstop. I think that Gaethje has definitely made improvements in his striking, but so has Dustin Poirier. We saw Poirier KO McGregor with just great combinations. He was countering some of the shots McGregor had. He was calculated with his calf kicks that really debilitated Connor, and then he put him to sleep. And with like a 25 punch combination, Gaethje, what he's done better is he's not as wild. His defense is way better. I mean, it's kind of shocking when you go back and watch his old fights. He would literally just stand with his head down and just take punches and then counter with a big left hook or an uppercut or something and hurt the guy. He is way better cleaner with his striking defense. He also uses a jab and left hook a lot. But recently he's been kind of telegraphing the left hook a lot. Like even in the Oliveira fight, he got so excited and just was like swinging for the fences and even fell over. He swung so hard. So that shows you that he has not completely left that old Justin Gaethje where he just goes to war and just swings crazy, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it shows you he's still not refined. Justin is refined. So on the feet, even though Gaethje's made amazing advancements, I still have to go Poirier. On the feet. I think Poirier's boxing is cleaner. Uh, his combinations are a lot smoother. Poirier takes some punches, but he has great defense too. I think their defense is pretty comparable. I just think Poirier's boxing combinations are a little bit cleaner. Justin has really good like three punch combinations that ends with a left hook or an uppercut or something like that. But Poirier can let him rip. It's like nonstop. It's pretty crazy, especially when he gets somebody hurt. I think both guys will be hurt in this fight because they both have so much power. Dustin wasn't always as powerful, if I remember correctly, but in recent years, his power has gone up massively. And I think part of that's an accumulation of shots, but also his just sitting down on his punches more. Gaethje, we all know, has crazy power. I think both guys will get hurt here, but the difference is what happens when they get hurt. When Justin hurts Dustin, is he very calculated and still like looking for his moments, looking for the openings to land the kill shot? Or is he just going to go guns blazing, swinging for the fences where he could get caught in return? And then on the other hand, when Dustin hurts Justin, how does Justin react? Does he circle away? Does he clinch up? Does he fight smart here? Or does he do what he did in the first fight and just call him forward and just go, go out on a shield? Hope he can land a bomb while he's rocked. And if he does that, he's going to get KO'd again because Poirier, like I said, with the McGregor fight, like with the Chandler fight, when he hurt Chandler in the first round, trying to think of some other ones recently, when he gets people rocked, that's when he does his most damaging, work because he just starts teeing off and you really have nothing to do when you're getting lit up by him. I don't think this will be a grappling fight. Maybe there's a little bit of clinching. Like I said, when somebody gets hurt, if Gaethje fights smart or Poirier fights, I mean, I think Poirier is more likely to clinch if he gets hurt. There could be some clinching, but other than that, this is going to be a stand-up fight. This is for the BMF title. I think both guys know what this means, what they have to go out and do. I just can't wait. This is a sweet UFC main card. The prelims are okay. Like I said, there's some interesting fights. The main card is just an absolute banger. I cannot wait to watch this. I didn't even make a prediction. My prediction for this fight is Poirier by knockout in the third round. I think we'll do it one round earlier this time. Even though Gaethje's got, been more refined, I just think he's going to get it done in the third. So I'll run through my main card predictions again, and I'll pick rounds on these two. I think Holland will get a knockout on Chiesa in the second round. I think Bobby Green will win a decision against Tony Ferguson. I think Lewis can get a knockout against De Lima in the first round. I said knockout, I didn't say first round last time. I think I'll go Pereira decision, even though like I said, I want to see the knockout. And I got Poirier by knockout in the third round. So based off my prediction, there's a lot of knockouts on this main card. So hopefully that those come true. And enjoy the card, everybody. Let me know your predictions for the main and the co-main event, and any other fights on the main card. And we'll see. This is gonna be a fun card. And depending on how good, how fun it was, I may make a breakdown video after the fact, my reaction to it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like and comment. Other than that, I'm out. Peace.